Go to the ER now. Do not stop anywhere. Like most of us who are red-blooded car enthusiasts, we cook up interesting ways to involve our hobby into the threads of our lives. I had a work trip, and I really should say work trip. It was a 3-day rally in the Dolomites in Italy. Under normal circumstances, one would go to an airport, rent a car, go to the destination, get in, go about your business. Not me. I've done this kind of thing domestically a whole bunch, but I'd yet to do it internationally, which was come up with a cool and interesting car to buy on the ground. Instead of getting a rental car, use said car as a rental car, ship the car home, sell it and make money. My success rate, I'm definitely passing the grade, but I would be lying if I said I was 100% successful. So I'm like looking at Maranello's, but the spread in price on Euro to US wasn't big enough. By the time I got a car here, I basically went and did a whole bunch of legwork for absolutely nothing. While I don't hate Porsche 911s, I just wouldn't choose one for an event like this. So that eliminated 911s. And so then I settled on 355. I would have done a 348, a special 348. I'd had a bunch of 348s in the past that I love. I think they're a completely unsung car. 355, it's a beautiful car, sounds great. And the other strong appeal for me was that European versions, especially the early ones, had some cool and special features that US cars didn't get. The steering wheel in an early Euro car, which, a steering wheel may not sound like that big of a deal, but that's the single biggest thing that you're interacting with the entire time you're using your car. You're staring at it, you're holding it, that's how you interact with the car. So the early Euro cars get this beautifully made 3-spoke gnarly looking thing. And meanwhile, the US cars get this massive big airbag steering wheel. It just looks better. And then also the early cars with OBD1 with the extra horsepower and all that, it was just nicer. And the other thing is that the Europeans tended to be a little bit more adventurous with their color selections than Americans did at that time. So I decided that I wanted a 355 GTS because it's June and it's Europe and I'm going to be in Italy, and who wouldn't want to drive one of these things around with the roof off? So I found this 94 build, so that's an early car, 355 GTS in Nero Metallizzato on red. That was a two-owner Swiss car. Records like this, just fat stack of records. I always like to say I buy paper. When I see a fat stack of service records, I just get really excited. Look, a low mile car is great, but if I'm looking at a low mile car that has no history to speak of, the lack of paper tells me a story. It tells me that the car was maybe not necessarily loved in the way that it should have been. Give me a car that has, especially on a personal level, give me a car that has some kilometers on it, but has a fat stack of paperwork. I'll take that car every single time. So I find this car, Nero Metallizzato on red, 355 GTS, great color combination, looks wonderful. I buy this thing, I want to say it was probably about 2 weeks before I was scheduled to fly over there. A little less than a week before I'm supposed to leave, I start, it had been raining for a couple of days locally, and I start to feel this pain in the base of my right thumb. I'd previously broken this thumb skiing, so I'm thinking, okay, maybe just a weird thing, sometimes with, humidity or whatever, you start to feel old injuries, something like that. But then it stopped raining and it was still hurting, and it was, really hurting pretty badly. Kind of like I broke it again. Happened to be around my mother, who takes a look at it and touches it and says, "That's awfully warm to the touch. Might be an infection." No way. Like, I haven't been poked. Like, nothing happened here. And she said, well, let's keep an eye on it. And at this point, I start taking, start taking ibuprofen and, all sorts of other stuff. Long story short, next day, what started as like a little red spot on my thumb here has spread to my entire thumb and has started spreading across my hand and up my wrist. So I sent a picture to my sister, who's a surgeon. This was 24 hours later. And she says, go to the ER now. Do not stop anywhere. And my sister is not an alarmist type of doctor. That infection is spreading very quickly. Go now. So I go to the ER, and it's a Friday night, and I'm supposed to leave Monday to go to Zurich to go pick this car up and drive it over to Italy and do all this stuff. I'm now in the hospital. It's like 11 o'clock. They're doing all these tests on me, and they say, we're gonna need to admit you. They're holding me, and I'm telling all my doctors, like, you guys gotta like get me out of here. Like, I have to be on a plane on Monday. I'm not missing this. Fortunately, my doctor was very, very cool. So they gave me a bunch of IV antibiotics, but there was still a big question mark of, this, and because I actually have hardware in this thumb, so now there's, there may be a permanent infection in there, and they're trying to get me in for MRIs, and it was too late to get an MRI in, so I'm sitting there till the next day, and I'm here like watching time melt away, and all I'm thinking about is, I gotta go drive this car. I gotta go get my rental car. And the doctor's telling me, you might not be making this one. And I'm mentally like preparing for this while still focusing on the goal. Basically, doctor says, we can't get it. Like we're gonna need to operate on you, but there's no OR till Monday. We can either wait until Monday or I can do it in your room. And I said, we're doing this thing. Let's go. Gets everything taken care of. Sunday, they discharge me with a whole bunch of kit and caboodle to keep myself all sanitized and a bunch of things to wrap my hands up, because I told them, listen, guys, I'm going. Come hell or high water. Especially now that I'm dealt with, I'm going. Now, mind you, this is my right hand. I'm not only am I driving, I'm shifting with this hand as well. And I will ultimately be shifting a 1950s winning sports racer car, which is an aggressive car, to non-power steering car to drive. Basically doing it with like a hand and a half. And then the next morning, I get an email from the airline that I'd booked on that my flight was canceled. This was like sort of like peak airline disruption time. Like everything was either getting canceled or delayed, and everyone was getting their luggage lost. It was a bit of a disaster. So my flight gets canceled, and they tell me that my option, is to fly to, I can't fly to my original destination. I can either fly to Paris, or they can fly me late the next day, which was totally gonna mess my rental car plan up. Again, I did this all around the rental car. And I said, you know what? Just give me my money back. And I bought the cheap seat, like the cheapest seat I could find. I stopped through Iceland to go to Zurich. About 3 hours before I would have made it there, had my original flight not been canceled. Nice leisurely drive down to the very nice, very accommodating dealer who had this lovely 355. I get there, and the car is everything that it was represented to be. I mean, I'd had it inspected previously, so I knew what I was getting myself into. My friend who I was doing the event with lands an hour later. I pick him up at the airport in our noble rental car, and we go and drive to San Moritz to stay overnight, where, of course, it is pouring rain. A bright idea, got a 355 GTS to go drive through the mountains where it's pouring rain, and then I discovered the Targa top is not exactly watertight, so it's like getting water torture while driving along with just a slow drip, slow drips on our legs. But we're driving a 355 GTS with a Capristo through the Alps. I mean, even though it was raining, and this actually and the day that we landed was actually my birthday. Driving that car in the Alps on my birthday, I mean, it could have been snowing. I wouldn't have cared. This kind of thing was something I've wanted to do forever. And I've been really fortunate and have been able to have done all sorts of rallies all over the world. I've done rallies in Japan, I've done rallies in Europe, I've done rallies in the US. I don't know what it was. That moment in my little rental car on my birthday, it was like a fantasy I'd cooked up when I was 16 or 17 years old to go to the Alps and drive a car around in the Alps sort of aimlessly, and that's what I was doing. I sort of have a bit of a tagline with a lot of the more, young timer cars that we sell, like never let the dreams of your youth die. That was living the tagline. I was not letting the dreams of my youth die. I was driving a 355 GTS with a Capristo and a stick in the Alps with a bandaged hand, jet lagged, and loving life.
Premier Financial Services makes it easier and more affordable than you could possibly imagine to own your dream car. Their Simple Lease is one of the most powerful tools in the world of exotic car financing. You get all the benefits like the tax savings and the low payments of a lease with all the additional benefits that you normally find in a traditional finance arrangement. You can build up equity, you can pay it off early, you can trade in and out of cars because you get a very clear and easy to understand amortization table to understand what your payoff will be any month throughout your term. And all the while, the amazing team from Premier Financial Services will be right there to help you along the way. They've been supporters of the VinWiki channel now for 5 years in a row, so we can't thank them enough for that, but mostly we're thankful for the fact that they can help you make it easier than ever to own your dream car. Check them out now.